Welcome to Tomes and Tales. Today's tale is going to take us back to the 1990s in a very cold winter in northern England and an encounter with a decidedly unholy holy man. Now, about 30 years ago, I was at a party with a friend of mine and she was telling me a story she swore was true. It still sends shivers through my spine to this day, and this is what I'm going to share with you. So around 1991, my friend was at a party with a cousin of hers. They had a few drinks, were catching up from the years that had gone by, and her cousin opened up to her about something that had happened when she was a child. They lived in northern England. If you haven't been there, it's a very, very cold place. They lived in a rural part of the country. The cousin said when she was a child, in the winter, she was on a long drive with her father. Long, lonely roads. Snow everywhere, bitterly cold. One time they were doing a drive, and at the side of the road there was a man, and he waved the car down. And as they got closer, she could see that it was a priest. And he was wearing fairly old-fashioned garb, but that's not unusual in the UK. But this man was wearing a black and white cowl, and he had straggly white hair, very thin, and a very gaunt face, and dazzling blue eyes. She could tell when she got close to the man that he had been a very, very handsome man, strikingly so. The car slows down. Her father wound down the window and leaned over to talk to the priest, ask him if he needed a ride, where did he need to go to, how he could help. She was a bit hazy on the details because she didn't hear all of the conversation. She said the priest had a real energy about him, very loving, very charismatic. So she thought nothing of it and carried on reading her book in the back of the car. Her father leans across, opens the door, and then slams the door shut. And she was shocked because he accelerated really, really quickly on a very slippy, icy road, just leaving the priest behind them. The girl was asking her dad, what's wrong, Dad? Why are you doing this? Why are you driving away? We'll talk about it later. We will not speak of this right now. Just get away. He's driving and he's panicking. The girl looked out of the back of the car. She could see the priest just looking at her. He looked confused. She was confused as well. Why would her father just leave this man in the bitter cold weather? A holy man. The rest of the evening her dad wouldn't talk about it. That evening became days, days became weeks, years. It was never discussed, never came up again. Until she hit the age of 18. And after her 18th birthday she was having a few drinks with her father. And she brought it up with him. So Dad, what happened on that day? Why did you just leave that priest? She said the colour drained from her father's face. And he said, I suppose you're old enough, I can tell you what I saw. You might not believe me, but I saw it with my own eyes. Sit down. So, okay, tell me what happened. And her father swore blind that when he opened the passenger side, he looked down and the priest had one shoe and one hoof, a cloven hoof, an animal's hoof. Her father obviously struggled to process this and was terrified and just drove away. Now I admit this is a very unusual concept, especially with it being a holy man, to have something animalistic. And it's a good story. I've told it many times. I had heard lots of theories about it over the years and thought nothing of it. Now keep in mind, this was decades ago. This was in the days before the internet, so there was no way of researching this or corroborating it with anyone else. It was just word of mouth. Now my friend did say there were also reports at the time of prints in the snow. Again, really hard to corroborate back in those days. Now fast forward to today's world, a simple search in Google can get a lot of results. And I did this before making this video. What I found really scared me. I didn't find a report about back in the 1980s or 1970s in England. I did find something though in 1855 in Devon in southern England, and it was known as the Devil's Footprints. There were reports of prints in the snow about 100 miles long that took place over 2 nights, and the prints were 1 foot and 1 hoof. There's also a picture of it which I'll put in this video as well. Granted, there were no other accounts of a priest, which I think adds a bit of a chill to the story as well. Some religious leaders would tell you that the devil will often try and take a human form but can't quite get it right. There's something there that betrays his animalistic side, and the ultimate insult, of course, would be to take the form of a holy man. So I hope you like this story and it gives you something to think about. Please do comment, and if you enjoyed it, like and subscribe. There will be more tales to follow.